Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another monthly check-in, at this time for April. It's your boy, as always, and let me tell you, this is probably going to be a short one. I'm not even gonna lie, this is probably gonna be a shorter video for one of these, just because April is just, I'm already looking into March, or not even March, bro, jeez, it's been a day. I'm already looking into May, but April has just been very busy month. This month, when I look back, flew by really quickly. It went by really fast, and just because there was so much happening this month, whether it was not even games, because I'm gonna be honest, I really did not play too many games this month, but just when it comes to games, when it comes to like movies, TV, stuff in my life, it's just been a very busy month. And so this is probably gonna be a shorter one. I figured we can just go ahead and get started with the games I've been playing. Again, not too many games. I mentioned this in the check-in for March because I did it so late, but the beginning of the month was my spring break. Well, I say my spring break, but it was just spring break for wherever I am, because again, I work at school. I do IT for a school, and so whenever they're off for breaks, we're also kind of off for breaks. We still have to work and such, but we're not doing anything. We're just working from home. That's all we're doing. It's like that for pretty much all the big holidays. So Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, spring break. Summer's a little weird, but we still kind of work over the summer, but it's, again, just very a very different schedule. But anyway, beginning of April was spring break, so I had a week off, and that was kind of a weird period for me. I touched on this a little bit in the previous video, because again, I did this video like looking back, I think 3 weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, so it's still kind of fresh on my mind. But beginning of April, I kind of had a little bit of a, not necessarily burnout phase, but just kind of a feeling of, I was just feeling overwhelmed with everything I was doing. Again, I mentioned I was playing a lot of games. I had a lot of projects that I was looking at that I needed to get to in the future. And it kind of just got to a point where I just felt very overwhelmed during the break. I remember going to bed one night, it was early in the week, but I went to bed one night, waking up the next, or just thinking, I don't really want to wake up and just edit and do all this stuff the next morning. And so during that time, I kind of took a couple of days to like not really focus on anything when it comes to like the channel. So like I didn't work on any videos, didn't mess around with any like scripts or anything. I still played games. I was kind of like in a weird state with them though. One of the games I was playing was Ghost of Sparta, and that first night I booted it up, I was a little out of it, you know. I just wasn't really feeling it in the beginning. Really just more like my mental state and stuff. I just wasn't really sure how to feel playing it. I did eventually finish it. I'll get to that in a minute. And I think I definitely just needed some time to step away from that stuff and just give myself a little bit of a break, you know, so I'm not really hammering away at it constantly. I'm trying to not focus so heavily on deadlines anymore, just because I feel like deadlines always stress me out. Like, I know when I started this Gow Series, I was trying to, ideally, when I started, I wanted to knock them out probably like one video every 1 to 2 weeks, something like that. As you can tell, I haven't posted a God of War video in a hot minute. It's been a month pretty much. But yeah, I just kind of just needed a bit of a break. So I just kind of did some other things, looked back into getting an animation. I've never really touched on this, but I've really been into animation and stuff pretty much since I was probably like late teens, something like that. I've been working on Blender, not really proficient in the program itself, but I know my way around. And so I've just kind of been messing around with that, looking into some tutorials, trying to just get back into the flow of messing around with Blender, because I really would like to get a bit more serious about it. And so I kind of just took a break, focused on that. You know, just doing a bunch of other things, playing a bunch of games. Like I said, I was playing a lot of games during spring break. I was like just starting a lot of games. But Ghost of Sparta was just the one thing I focused on. And so getting into that was there's another game, but that was one of the 2 games that I platinumed in April. Started that beginning of April, and I finished it just like Chains of Olympus. I finished that, and I really could have finished it a lot faster, but it took me probably 3-4 days, something like that. I mostly played them at night, just because that's really early morning and nighttime is just really when I have time to myself where I can just be in my room and just, you know, play the games I want to play. Mornings I kind of just dedicate that, especially when if I don't have any work or anything like that. Mornings I just kind of dedicate to stuff I would work on the channel. So if I have any videos I'm working on, any scripts I need to write, just anything, like, and if I have to organize my clips, stuff like that, that's really what I dedicate the early morning to. Just because that's stuff I can, you know, I can pretty much work on that throughout the day if I just remote to my computer from my laptop, something like that. And so, yeah, just nighttime is really when, again, and also another thing, I mostly play, if I'm playing on PS5 or my Xbox, I'm mostly doing that in remote play. So I got a Portal a few months ago. I think I mentioned it every now and then, but I got a Portal back in November. It was the 30th anniversary one, when they were doing that, like the 30th anniversary controller, consoles. I managed to get a Portal. And so I'm playing a lot of my Portal really this month, but every now and then I do game a lot on the Portal whenever times just pop up like that. And so I can't really do that with my PS3. I know the PS3 has remote play, but it's very, compared to PS5, PS4 remote play, nowhere near that. I think it's only available on the PSP, but in a very limited capacity, because as many of you know, there's only like one thumbstick for the PSP. Even though Ghost of Sparta was on the PSP originally, I'm pretty sure that's one of the games that would probably work well enough if I did remote play. But my PSP, just very weird. I don't know, I can't really connect to the internet with my PSP, so can't do remote play or anything like that, which is kind of a bummer. But anyway, coming into Ghost of Sparta, again, just mostly played this at night, really just late into the night. I would be up, there was one night, I'm pretty sure I was up till probably 2 in the morning just because it was getting really good. And Ghost of Sparta is just a very, looking back on it, very interesting God of War game. So for those that don't know, it's another, I say prequel, but it's not like Chains of Olympus, where that one was kind of set before God of War 1. Ghost of Sparta takes place between God of War 1 and God of War 2. You know, you've already defeated Ares, you're the new God of War, but it's just, Chains of Olympus is kind of the same way, but this one really does feel more like a side story in many ways. I don't know, so it doesn't really hit as hard as I think Chains of Olympus did, for me at least. It's just very, it's one of those God of War games where if you didn't play it, you're not really missing out on much. Chains of Olympus, kind of the same way. There are, I think I noticed in God of War 3, there are some minor callbacks to Chains of Olympus. I think Chains of Olympus is more of a, not necessarily character study, but does dive more into Kratos' psyche when it comes to like his daughter and stuff like that. And in this one, your main goal is really to find your brother Deimos, right? But I just don't really, the story just didn't really hit on that same level for me that Chains of Olympus did when I played that a couple months ago now. And so that's really where I'm kind of weird about it. The thing that I will say was a major improvement compared to Chains of Olympus is the gameplay. In some ways, it's just very, it's very different from not only Chains of Olympus, but the other God of War games, the mainline God of War games, 1 through 3. Because there's just some interesting mechanics in this one that just are, as far as I know, are only in this one. The only God of War game I have to play that's set in the Greek mythology is Ascension. So I don't know if Ascension picked up on those mechanics from Ghost of Sparta. I doubt it did, because God of War 3 didn't do anything from Chains of Olympus, at least I remember. So I'm pretty sure like Ghost of Sparta just has a lot of interesting mechanics that like just made it a little like a very different product. And so yeah, Ghost of Sparta was interesting one. There's some interesting trophies in that one. There's one trophy where I had to collect 1 million orbs, red orbs. One of the like final trophies I did. Of course, there's also the challenges. A lot of the trophies are just like Chains of, like pretty much any God of War game, you're gonna pick up along the way. So, you know, just doing all the story stuff, getting all the collectibles, purchasing all the upgrades, stuff like that. So it all just kind of comes with the territory. So at this point, I'm just very comfortable and familiar with the God of War formula, let's just say. And so yeah, just as I was getting towards those, like once I finished the game, I was getting towards those final trophies. The red orb trophy, that one took me like a solid hour to get through. And then of course there's the challenges, which there's quite a few challenges compared to other one. I think there's like 13 challenges in this game, but they actually were not, I think if I look back at the other God of War games, this is probably the easiest set of challenges I've like gone through. Like I blasted through these challenges. They were super easy. And so yeah, that was the Ghost of Sparta experience. Again, I finished that in about 3-4 days, something like that. And so I'm pretty close to finishing all the God of War games. I did take a little break just because I didn't want to burn myself out. It's just I wanted to focus on the rest of the God of War games I haven't really gotten to yet in terms of making videos, because God of War 2, I'm still at this moment in time, which is April 30th, I'm still working on the God of War 2 video. I've been working on that for pretty much a month. Again, this month has just been incredibly busy. And so I finally got around to finishing it. I hit render yesterday, so we got the final cut. I still need to watch it one more time because I'm pretty sure there are some things in there that I probably glossed, like need to fix, like any transitions or something like that. But the final version, like I'm just gonna watch it again, make sure audio sounds good, video looks good, just everything about it's good. And then hopefully at the time of me making this, by the time I'm posting this, it should be out. But by the time I'm recording this, I should have it out within the next few days. You know, I just want to let it sit whenever it is done. Let it sit for a bit just to make sure, you know, I don't get any strikes or anything like that, because these last couple days have been spent doing a lot of keyframing out nipples. Let me tell you, dude, that was a process. That was a process, because if you're familiar with God of War 2, there's about 3 bosses in that game, female bosses, that are partially nude. Not necessarily the bottom half, but the top half, right? You see boobs, you see nipples, you see everything. And of course, I ain't trying to let that fly. I can't let that fly on YouTube, because I'm probably gonna be I didn't want to mess with that. So the last couple days I spent just keyframing out nipples and stuff, and it was a process. I'll just say that much, because I tried to track them, but the thing is, with some of these characters, like one of the bosses, Lachesis, if you remember from God of War 2, she moves very fast, right? She moves very fast, and the way her design is, just one of her boobs are popping out. And so it was very tedious having to go through, and again, I tried tracking it, but the way she moves around, it kind of lost track of it sometimes. And I'm not super like proficient when it comes to tracking stuff like that, and so I had to go through and just keyframe almost every single frame that like you see it in, which that took me forever. I did that for her. I did that for, there's another boss, Raleigh, that's earlier in the game. I did that for one of the other Sisters of Fate, which was Clotho. And so that whole process took me about 3 days, not like consistently or anything like that, just kind of in spurts. So I started that process on Sunday. Probably spent like a couple hours doing that, and then Monday night I spent about an hour and a half doing that, and then probably like 30 minutes yesterday just kind of finishing everything up, making sure everything looked good. And so total, that process took me like 4 hours for footage that's probably makes up, I don't know, maybe 3-4 minutes of the video. And so it was very, very strenuous, very tedious, and I'm just kind of glad that's done and I can move on. Now I'm just kind of, again, to hit render on it, I just gotta watch it again and make sure everything looks good, and then we can get that out and hopefully get the ball rolling on the other God of War games, because I really, really don't want to leave y'all hanging on that for like a long time with this series. I do want to crank these out as quickly as I can, as quickly as I'm capable of doing. You know, I'm not trying to, again, burn myself out from it. So I'm really, you know, I am kind of now, like that first week of April, kind of, I was able to reflect a bit on like my process and stuff, and just kind of go back to learning how to treat this as a hobby instead of just making this my sole focus every day. I mean, it is a pretty big focus in my life right now, right? But I just don't want it to take over to the point where I don't find it fun anymore. And so just kind of taking my time that's why it took me like a month to finish this God of War 2 video. Hopefully it doesn't take me as long with Chains of Olympus, because that is a shorter game. And yeah, that's where I'm at with God of War. Again, I just need to play Ascension and Ragnarok. Those are the only 2 that I need to finish. Ascension I played years ago. I only have like 5 trophies though, so that's going to be, you know, a regular trophy video. And then Ragnarok, I played that back in 2022. Got pretty much all the story trophies and maybe like a few miscellaneous trophies. So that one's really going to be clean up, just finishing up some loose ends, playing the DLC, which I'm looking forward to now that I've extensively played through the Greek saga and understand it a little bit more, and have a better appreciation for it now than I probably would have if I played it back in 2023 when that DLC dropped. And so that's God of War. Plan on definitely finishing that series up within the next few months. The other game, I played a few other games. I did continue playing my video, or my game that I'm doing for the challenge video, the 1 through 10 challenge that I'm working on. I see Nick AR, he's working on that challenge too, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I've really played very little of that. Again, just because like this and the next thing we'll talk about, just very busy month. There was like 1 week my uncle came to visit us, and so that week I barely played any games at all. I just figured it was an opportunity just to kind of take a break from gaming, you know, not for us like a bad way, but just, you know, give myself a little break so that when I do come back, I'm rejuvenated, I'm ready to just like dive in full speed, right? And so didn't play much of my 4 out of 10 game. The only other game I was looking forward to in April was South of Midnight. There's a lot of releases going on in April, but the only one I mainly had my eye on was South of Midnight. That was the one I was really looking forward to the most. So I got on Game Pass. Again, I'm not super far into it. I think there's 13 chapters in the game, if I'm correct. I'm only on chapter 6. It's been probably a good 2 weeks or so since I played it. I just, like I said in this numerous times already, so I'm not gonna sound like a broken record, but it's been busy. Life's been busy, and so I haven't really had as much time to play it like I would like to. And then something else right now kind of took priority, so I'm kind of focusing on that. But once I do finish that, I do plan on jumping back into South of Midnight so I can finish that up and do something a little exciting for the Xbox side. So before we get into the rest of the games, I had this thought, because I mentioned this previously, but I was working on my script for Indiana Jones, right? And as I'm writing it, I'll be honest, that was one of the things in the beginning of the month that I was just not really looking forward to writing. Just because the port for the PS5 version came out this month, and my goal back in January when I finished it was to have the video out in time for the PS5 version when that dropped, right? Because I feel like it was going to get more juice during like that time period. But as it was getting closer and closer, I was really procrastinating, and I didn't really get too far into it, and the date just kept like slowly creeping up on me. And then by the time the 17th rolled around, which is when it dropped on PlayStation, I was nowhere near being done with that script, and I'm just like, I don't really know if I want to like keep doing this, right? And so I was kind of messing around, because I had the same thought with South of Midnight, right? Because I looked at the achievement list, very simple achievement list, and so I was kind of just like, I don't really feel it be super interesting making a trophy video about South of Midnight specifically right now, just because, again, very simple. Like the achievements, you're gonna, from like the time I have played, you're mostly going to pick up these achievements naturally as you play. And so in my mind, I just didn't really feel like it was as exciting, as challenging, as engaging as it would have been if I just kind of treated South of Midnight as an ordinary trophy video. Because I'm gonna be honest, I really want to, South of Midnight is, how do I want to phrase this? South of Midnight is a very special game that I want to cover on the channel, right? And so I'm just kind of trying to think, how do I want to do this? You know, like, how do I want to tackle South of Midnight? And as I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Indiana Jones, I'm like, that's 2 Xbox games right now that I kind of have sitting in the chamber, right? And it kind of got me thinking, I'm like, what if instead of covering these games one at a time, I make a compilation video of a bunch of other Xbox games that I've been trying to play as well? And so kind of sitting around with that idea, learning to digest for a little bit, and I just became more enticed by that idea, right? And so I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. So instead of like rushing to make this Indiana Jones video, or not really having as much enthusiasm as for making the South of Midnight video, I figured I would just combine it all into one video and just kind of highlight other Xbox games as well, and also tackle some that I've been sitting on my backlog for a while, and just make it all into one big video. And so that's what I'm gonna do. Again, once I finish this one game I'm playing right now, which I'll get into in a minute, I'll, push through Cell to Midnight and then probably mess around with a couple of other Xbox games to include in this video and then work on that video. And so that's my plan there. I'm really looking forward to that, really excited about that. And yeah, that's where I am with Xbox. Again, Cell to Midnight, I'm actually really having a fun time with it. The amount that I have played really speaks to me as someone who lives in the South. That culture is really, really shoved in your face in a good way. And I definitely think it just really hits all the right tones. It's a very simple game, nothing too crazy. I do think that simplicity, though, I've seen some reviews call out like the combat and stuff. I will admit it's very simplistic, but I'm not at the point right now where it's annoying to get through. I'll say that. I'm having a good time with the game so far. Really enjoying the vibes, the atmosphere, the characters, the music. The music is really good in this game. And yeah, dude, I'm just really looking forward to hopefully catching you guys up to speed in the next check-in video. Because again, I really, really do want to pick this back up and finish it pretty soon. And so those are the two games I've kind of been playing on and off throughout May. The other platinum that I did get this month was for Lego Harry Potter years 1 through 4. Again, kind of trying to barrel through this Lego series that I have going on. Lego game, like Lego Harry Potter was the one that was really interesting because I'm not a big Potterhead, let's say. I've mentioned this in like previous videos because I've been playing it as well, but I've seen these movies once, like years ago, and I was going to start playing it whenever I finished, what was it, Bionicle Heroes was the last. It's not really in order right now because Bionicle Heroes is way earlier than Lego Harry Potter. But once I finished Bionicle Heroes, I'm like, Lego Harry Potter is the next one I need to play. But I played it one night and I was super confused, and I'm like, it would be my experience would probably be much better if I watched the movies again. So that's why I've kind of been taking my time with Lego Harry Potter, because I wanted to watch all the movies first before hopping into the game. And so once I finished the last movie, which was Goblet of Fire, I dived in, and really interesting product that is Lego Harry Potter years 1 through 4, because in some ways it kind of harkens back to Lego Indiana Jones 2, which really switched up the Lego formula when it comes to Lego games. But it also does have that old TT Games formula that I feel like Lego Indiana Jones 2 not necessarily shied away from, but definitely changed, right? And so in some ways it was very familiar. In other ways it was still a pretty big change compared to like typical Lego games. But overall, Lego Harry Potter 1 through 4 was a fun time. I did enjoy it, especially once I got the ball rolling and I was playing the later Harry Potter games. And then of course we have free play. A lot of YouTubers I watch when it comes to Lego games aren't the biggest fan of free play, just because you're essentially playing the story again. I don't mind free play. I do find it to be like a fun way to experiment with different characters, especially as you unlock them, and then just play through the story again. Usually when I do that, I do zone out. I do put on a podcast to kind of get me through. And then I think this is the first Lego game, aside from Indiana Jones 2, because again, that one's a little different, but this is really the first Lego game where a lot of stuff, you need to find a lot of stuff in the hub world, which is very expanded. I mean, you're exploring Hogwarts Castle, which is just a fantasy for many Harry Potter fans right there, right? And so that part of the grind took me a few hours. And so again, I finished the story it was during spring break. That's when I finished the story. And then every now and then I'll mess around with free play. The levels in the game, it goes back to the typical 6 levels per movie formula, but they're not super long, which is really nice. They're probably at the most, the longest mission I played was probably like 15 minutes. And that's like, I want to say either during book 3 or 4. I can't remember off the top of my head, but every other mission is probably a good, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes, something like that. And so going back through free play was just very fun, very fast. And yeah, I eventually just kind of, there was one weekend, it was Easter weekend actually, when my uncle was here. We were all just, chilling one weekend, and I'm just like, I'm gonna bring out the portal, because I don't really, when I'm playing Harry Potter, I don't really, or like when I'm doing the free play for Lego Harry Potter, or just any Lego game in general, I don't have to be super locked in to it. I know what I'm doing. I've already done this stuff before, so I can kind of like vibe out and just, multitask, I guess, and just do this while having family over and we're all like kind of doing something together. And so I finished pretty much all the free play that Saturday, and then all of Sunday I spent doing all the exploration and stuff like that. And so knocked that out in the weekend, which was really nice. And I just really want to continue like working on the Lego series, because I still have a lot of Lego games to get through before I feel comfortable enough releasing the videos. I really want the Lego series to be something special for me, for you, if you're a big fan of Lego games and just Lego in general. And so, yeah, that was the other game I platinumed this month. And then the only other thing, just kind of, I've been in this weird state, and we're coming up on May, which for me is pretty big month because it's May the 4th, which is something I look forward to every single year. And I was like, this will be a pretty good time to play some Star Wars games. And I guess now's a good time to talk about what it's going to be. Originally, if you stuck around last year for May 4th, I did a pretty big video for me at the time, which was getting the platinum in 3 Star Wars games. I wanted to do 4, but the way like life was at the time, I really didn't have enough time to do 4 games in order to release it in the time that I wanted to. So I did it for 3. And this year, going into this year, I really wanted to do 4 Star Wars games. They were, again, shorter Star Wars games, nothing crazy, because if you know me, if you've been around for the channel long enough, I platinum pretty much all the big Star Wars games. So like The Force Unleashed, the Jedi games, the Battlefront games, I pretty much platinumed all of those. They're just kind of like the older Star Wars games that I haven't really platinumed, such as the Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast games. Those are 2 I haven't platinumed. I found out recently that Demolition had a platinum, which I was going to include in the video. There was Star Wars Jedi Power Battles, which came out back in January or February, one of the 2. And then just a bunch of like random stuff. So like Squadrons is another one in there. There's the different versions of like Jedi Fallen Order for PS5, Jedi Survivor for PS4. And so I was kind of like, thinking about doing another one of those videos where I platinum 4 Star Wars games on May 4th. But again, as time was just kind of, as we're getting into April, I hadn't played any Star Wars game at that point. And I just like, I don't think it's going to be attainable this year. And so I still do want to do something Star Wars related though. And so what I'm going to do instead is, since this year celebrates the 20th anniversary for Revenge of the Sith, what I decided to do was kind of go back and revisit my retrospective that I did for the game back when I first started the channel, back in 2023. And I kind of wanted to just do a little exercise where I guess I redo the video. I didn't really want to re-upload it, because I've seen the thing like what other YouTubers do when it comes to like retrospectives or something like that, is they'll kind of re-upload the video but just redo the voiceover and stuff. Ideally that's what I was going to do at first, but when I pulled up the script from like back in like 2022 when I was working on it, I really wanted to just kind of go back and revamp it a little bit, change up some things, switch up the formatting of some sections, add a little more context to stuff, so like the combat or something like that. And also, of course, redo the voiceover. That was what I was going to do from the beginning. And something that I'm going to mention in that video is that I've just kind of grown a lot in the last couple years. And so I just figured this would be a good way to, a good exercise, I guess, if you will, to just kind of show how far I've come from that first video, or really, that was my second video that I made, really how far I've come from that to now. And I just figured now would be the best time, considering it's the 20th anniversary for Revenge of the Sith. And then there's another video I want to do with Revenge, and also going back, I want to just, instead of just focusing on the console version, I'm also going to talk about the handheld version, because I played that quite a bit when I was a kid as well. And so just, if you've been around since the beginning, you watched that video, just something to add a bit more of an incentive for you to watch it again, I guess. And so that's really, I've just been playing Revenge of the Sith, both versions. I'm still playing the PS2 version. I'm doing, instead of playing how I played it the first time was, it was on the PS3. Like I was able to buy it on the PS3, which I had bought like years ago, like back when I was in high school. And I was gonna play, I didn't want to play that again or just reuse that footage. So instead I thought it'd be cool to just emulate the game on my PC. I mean, I have this game on multiple consoles, so I don't really feel like it was like slap on the wrist, like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, I'm able to still get this game easily, but I figured it would just be better to emulate it, you know, higher end just, I guess, smoother visuals and stuff like that. And so that's really what I've been doing for the last week or so. That's pretty much it when it comes to gaming this month. Not a lot in that department, just because, again, it's been a very busy month for me. But this also was a pretty good month for movies. I guess we can move into the extracurriculars, because, again, gaming pretty dry this month. I guess going into other releases though, before we get into that, Clear Obscure Expedition 33 came out about a week from yesterday, and that game's really blowing up. Been seeing a lot of good things about it. What's funny is my dad, he got the game too on Game Pass, which I was not expecting. I didn't really think he was super into the game, and so it's really cool seeing him play that. He's not really like too far in it, but yeah, really cool seeing him play that. And then, of course, in that same week, the Oblivion remaster dropped, and I was like, bro, what? Because it's crazy. We've been seeing, if you're like someone who follows gaming news and stuff, we've been following the leaks for quite a while now. And so I remember seeing something, I think it was like last Monday, how they're gonna have something like a announce or like some kind of live stream for Tuesday. And I'm like, that's it. They're dropping it on Tuesday. And so it's just a normal day for me on that Tuesday, just kind of doing my normal thing. And then I happen to just go on YouTube and I see a live stream from Xbox, and I see the Oblivion logo. I'm like, it's happening. It's about to happen. And so I watched the presentation, and of course they dropped it. And, you know, I'm talking to my friend about it because he's a huge Skyrim like nerd. And so he's been telling me to play that game for years. And I'm like, telling, oh, Oblivion's out. You can play it right now, yada, yada. And so we're kind of talking pretty much the whole day about Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff. And so I really do want to get to this Oblivion remaster sooner rather than later. What's funny is, you know, as we've been talking about the leaks and stuff for like the last like couple months, I was thinking, oh, it'd be kind of cool if I did like a With My Destroy All Humans thing, where I do, I got 100% this game twice, you know, played the original 360 version and then play this remastered version. But when they dropped the remaster, I was able to look at the trophy list, same exact trophy list from the 360 and the remaster. So I'm like, yeah, save me some time. I'll just play the remaster. And so that's the plan. Hopefully sometime soon I can play it. I don't really know what I want to play it on right now, because it is also on PS5. So I don't know if I want to play on PS5 and get the platinum, or save some money, use my Game Pass subscription, get the achievements on Xbox. I don't know. Probably whenever I get around to playing, I'll drop a poll, see what everyone thinks. I feel like I know what the answer is going to be, given like this is mainly a PlayStation centered channel. But I would be surprised if people are like, oh no, just, you know, you have Game Pass, to play on there. And so yeah, this really all like the big gaming stuff I've been looking at when it comes to April. I know today Borderlands 4 thing is supposed to be dropping, but yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to gaming, at least like aside from the game I'm playing, stuff I've been looking at, stuff I've been keeping up with. And so yeah, that's the gaming side of things. And now we get into the extracurriculars, the stuff I've been watching when it comes to movies and TV. This month has been a pretty big month for video game adaptations. We got 2 movies based off video games and 1 TV show based off a video game. But I'll get to the TV show in a minute. When it comes to the movie side of things, the first one, and probably the biggest one, was the Minecraft movie. I will say, so I'm a fan of Minecraft. I love Minecraft. I've been playing Minecraft since I was 14. I was it was 8th grade when I got it. It came out way before that, of course, but I got it in 8th grade. Fell in love with it. I played it for probably a couple years straight, to be honest. I was super into Minecraft. I was super into just seeing what I could create. I was watching like just random stuff on YouTube about Minecraft. My sister, I think I kind of radiated that energy off of her. I remember her either playing or watching a walkthrough of the Telltale Minecraft game that released like way back when. Can't really get it now, at least on digital, but I do remember her, I think, playing it on her iPad. I can't remember. But yeah, I was really into Minecraft for a long time when I was like in my mid teenage years. And then I kind of got back into it again during COVID. Me and my friends, we had a server. We dumped dozens of hours into that server. And so Minecraft has been not a huge part of my life, but definitely been a mainstay of my life for like the past probably 10 years or so. And going into this, the movie, so I'll admit, I was like a pretty big hater on this movie when I first saw the trailer. I was just like, bro, why would they make this live action? Like you have the template right there, dude. Why not make it animated or something? And so that first trailer really, I don't want to say rubbed me the wrong way, but I was very dismissive of it after that. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not, this movie's not going to be good. I'm not going to see this movie. And then, yeah, no. Months pass on, right? I'm starting to see a little bit more of this movie. Not really like forcing, like I just kind of like if I'm at the movies or if I'm like seeing an ad or something. And as we see more of it, I'm like, I'll be honest, I'm kind of starting to get a little more interested. I'm starting to get a little more interested in it. And so it came out that week of spring break for me. And I was like asking one of my friends if he wanted to see it, but things got very busy towards that. Like we were gonna go on the weekend. Things got very busy for us. And so I ended up going to see it by myself that next weekend. And what's interesting, it was like, again, it was a week, or it had already been a week. And you're seeing all this stuff. Hopefully, if you guys, you're not living under a rock, I'm pretty sure you've been seeing all this stuff with Minecraft, all these like really I think mostly teenage boys going into these movies, causing a ruckus during the chicken jockey scene. And so I was very interested seeing how that would play out in my theater. Luckily, when I went, it was just a ton of family. I saw it in IMAX, ton of families in there. And so I was like, oh, I think we'll be good. I don't think it was gonna be, getting all crazy when they say chicken jockey. I will admit though, when that scene did pop up, I did say it to myself. I had to. I was like, perfect time until I'm like chicken jockey. But anyway, getting into the movie, pleasantly surprised with it. I will say I was pleasantly surprised. At that point, I kind of was like a little more up on the movie. I was actually really like pretty excited to see where they would go with it. And I will say, I think it was a good movie. Nothing crazy, nothing groundbreaking or anything like that. I don't think it's gonna push video game adaptations forward in some ways, even though it did like generate a ton of money at the box office. But it was a good movie. It was very good. I will say, not very, but it was good. I will admit. I did find the story, it's just very, Minecraft doesn't really, I won't say it doesn't have a story because there is an end goal in Minecraft, which is to defeat the Ender Dragon. But there's not like, the whole point of Minecraft is just do whatever, right? And so I did think the story that they made for it was intriguing enough, nothing crazy. We've definitely seen an iteration of this before in the past, but I definitely think it was good enough to kind of keep the momentum going. I think the real highlight though was just seeing the Minecraft world. Again, I was kind of going off earlier about how they made it live action. In some ways, I kind of found things to like about it being live action. The VFX in it are really good. I will admit, I'm really into VFX when it comes to movies and stuff. And so I definitely think this is, it's one of those weird situations where like, I'm gonna compare it to The Lion King, but I say it's live action, but it's really not. Most of it is animated, but the animation doesn't really come off as weird. In some cases, it does kind of feel uncanny valley. And from an example I can come up with was like the zombies. They can feel a little uncanny valley at times, especially compared to other mobs that we see in the Minecraft movie. But I will say, like, the VFX, there's a lot of like really cool shots in this movie, and the world of Minecraft itself is really cool in live action. I will say that. I will admit, it's just very cool seeing all these elements come together. And I mean, overall, it's just it was a fun time, honestly. Like I would watch it again if I if I had to. I really would. I had a fun time seeing this in the theater. I was really surprised with that. There's another movie I'll get into in a minute that kind of the same way. But before doing that, probably the other big movie I was looking forward to in April was Sinners. Got to see that in IMAX. Looking forward to that for a while. The trailers look really cool, and the final product was amazing. Honestly, like there really is no other way to describe this movie. It was simply amazing. Ryan Coogler delivers another, this was like his first original movie after working on Black Panther, which was a really, really big movie, really big superhero movie. But I think, just trying to find something like you can call your own, I guess, not really attached to an IP is always something interesting to look out for, especially from directors that work with Marvel or just really any big IP. And yeah, I definitely think Ryan Coogler delivered an amazing piece of media with stunning performances from Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld. I can't remember the guy. There's one guy, this is like his first movie ever. I can't remember his name right now at the top of my head. He delivers a fantastic, everyone in this movie is just delivering on all, like firing on all cylinders. And yeah, still like Sinners, fantastic movie. I highly recommend seeing that. Depending on when you're watching this, if you can see it on the biggest screen possible. This is like the last day they're playing in IMAX for me, because Thunderbolts comes out in starts playing tomorrow night, I guess. And so yeah, just the biggest screen possible is definitely the way to experience this movie. There are some shots, and I love seeing movies in IMAX, especially when the movie is actually made for IMAX. And there are some shots in this movie that take full advantage of that, and it's just like, I love seeing that stuff. I love seeing that stuff. But yeah, Sinners, amazing movie. Really want to see that again. I want to see again in IMAX, but again, just kind of the way things, especially with the movies I'm gonna talk about in a minute, just kind of got lost in the shuffle. But hopefully that's one of those movies that they like, coming back to IMAX or Sinners, because I will definitely be seeing it that way if I can. I wish we had a 70mm near us, because I feel like that's the ultimate way to watch Sinners. Really any other IMAX movie that takes advantage of that. But yeah, hopefully they bring that back in IMAX, because I definitely would see it again that way if I can. And so that was Sinners. A week after that, I saw the other big video game adaptation that dropped in April, which was Until Dawn. I'll be honest, I had the same feelings about Until Dawn that I had about the Minecraft movie. We got that trailer back in like who knows when. I watched it and I'm like, no, I ain't feeling this. This is not Until Dawn. It's not it. And so that's how I felt about that going in. But I had seen like a couple other trailers, didn't really change my mind about it at all, to be honest. But I remember talking to my friend like that week it was supposed to come out, because funny thing, I didn't know this movie. I've completely forgot about this movie. I forgot when it was coming out until I logged into my PlayStation one night, and on the home screen it showed Until Dawn dropping April 25th, and I'm like, oh, that comes out this month. And so I completely forgot about it. And so that week it came out, I was talking to one of my friends. I'm like, do you want to see this movie? He's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it. So come like Thursday, I was like, I probably will not be doing anything Friday night. So I'm like, you want to see it? So we're gonna go see it. And I went into this with an open mind. I didn't really want to let that purist mindset that this has to be exactly like the movie or like the game. I didn't want to like go in with that mindset. I wanted to at least try and go in with an open mind, right? And to be honest, that was another movie I was pleasantly surprised with, which I think coming from a fan of the game, or like I feel like I'm in the minority with that, because I do think a lot of people who played the game aren't going to be the biggest fans of this movie. Again, because it's not Until Dawn. Like the movie calls itself Until Dawn, but it's not Until Dawn. In my mind, I kind of about like 20-30 minutes in, I just saw this more as like a spin-off of Until Dawn. I think it would have been a lot better if they had like put a subtitle in there, but I think for the general audience it would have been confusing, because it's like, oh, Until Dawn, like so and so, does that mean I have to watch the first Until Dawn movie? Oh, there's no first Until Dawn movie, it's based off a game. Do I have to play the game in order to understand the movie? It probably would just create a lot of confusion. So I think just the simple route was just to call it Until Dawn. And yeah, it's Until Dawn in theory, right? The basic setup of Until Dawn and kind of I guess the whole premise of it is similar to the game, but this is nothing. This hardly has anything to do with the game. There are a few references, callbacks, and stuff like that that I think fans of the game will definitely appreciate for sure. But in terms of the movie calling itself Until Dawn, it's really not. It's only Until Dawn in name. But I didn't really mind that about like 30 or so minutes into the movie. You know, I kind of accepted that this isn't going to be the game. This is just really another story. I don't want to even say set in the universe. Well, I guess you can say it's set in the universe, but another story set in that universe that just happens to use the Until Dawn name. That's just kind of how I viewed it. And so once I kind of had like that change of mindset, I found some enjoyment with it. I did enjoy it. Again, I'm not like a huge horror movie fan or something like that. I've been like slowly getting into them over the past few years or so. But there are some things to enjoy about it. There are some jump scares in it. Didn't really get me too hard, but there are some in the movie. There are some very creative kills in this movie. There's one that happens like halfway through. I didn't see coming at all, which was a nice surprise. Really enjoyed that. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I enjoyed about the movie compared to the game. Now, of course, to me, the game is definitely superior to the movie, but I think as a nice little side story that just happens to call itself Until Dawn, it is enjoyable. It is an enjoyable movie. I did have a fun time with it. I didn't like regret my choice seeing this movie. I really did enjoy it. I can't say the same for a lot of like hardcore Until Dawn fans or Dark Picture Anthology fans, but at least for me, I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily, it's just a weird case. Like I would recommend it, but I don't really know if a lot of people, especially if they're fans of the games, would really like it as much, I guess. But I did enjoy my time with it, really did. But of course, possibly the biggest movie I look forward to this month didn't even come out this year. Didn't come out last year. Didn't come out in the last 10 years. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. That movie was Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. When they announced that they are bringing this movie back to theaters, I'm not kidding, I almost cried. Because I've technically seen this movie in theaters when it first came out in 2005, but I was 4 years old. I was 4. I don't remember shit. I don't remember anything about this when I saw it at 4 years old. The only thing I kind of remember was the battle on Mustafar, but that's like my 4-year-old toddler brain kind of processing that. That's really it. I have no recollection of seeing this in the theaters. And so technically, this was going to be my like first time seeing it in the movie theater. So when I saw like that opportunity was coming up, I was beyond excited. I was super looking forward to seeing this in the movies. And so as soon as the tickets became available, which was like probably a week or two before the movie came out, I bought them immediately. I was like, nothing was gonna stop me from seeing this in the movie theaters. And so the day after Until Dawn, you know, I was like super hyped for it. I'm hyped for a movie when I wake up early that morning. The last time I did that was for Endgame. I remember waking up super early that morning, just being excited. I did the same thing for Revenge of the Sith. I woke up at like 8 in that morning. I was supposed to sleep in, bro, but I couldn't. I was so excited. I was so excited to see this movie, and I just couldn't help but feel like super giddy. I couldn't help but feel like a kid. Like I was just really excited to see this. And so once my time came, bro, it felt so unreal. Like they've been re-releasing like older Star Wars movies previously. Like the first one I kind of did for this was Empire Strikes Back. They released that back in 2020 during like the COVID era. They did that. They did Rogue One when Andor was still coming out, but that was still kind of fresh in my mind. Like I'd already seen Rogue One in IMAX before, and then they had brought back Episode 1 last year, but again, I had seen that when I want to say 10 or 11, when Hollywood had that big 3D phase and they were trying to bring everything back in 3D. And so Empire Strikes Back and this were like the two Star Wars movies that, and they brought back Return of the Jedi back in 2023. Almost forgot about that. So Empire, Return of the Jedi, and Revenge of the Sith. Those are like the three that I've like really been looking forward to because I've never seen those in the theaters, right? I wasn't born for Episode 5 or 6. And again, I was like a toddler for Episode 4. And so just again, the prospect of being able to see this movie in theaters, bro, it was so unreal. It was epic in all the right ways. Like, I was just like, it was just surreal. That's the only way I could describe it. It was just so surreal being able to finally see this, like one of my favorite movies ever that I've seen dozens of times in the theater. And it was nice, a nice decent crowd there. The thing what's weird is the theater I'm at, IMAX is the only theater where you can reserve your seats. Everything else is just kind of a free-for-all, which I've gotten used to by now, but it's like, if it's a big movie, I just know to kind of get there a little early. And so for Revenge of the Sith, I didn't know how like big of a crowd it was going to be, so I showed up like 30 minutes before, and there was only like one other person in there. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, I get to choose wherever I want. And slowly I started to fill in, not a super big crowd, but a pretty decent sized crowd. And it's just kind of interesting seeing some of these people's seating choices. This is very interesting. I know that kind of sounds elitist, but just when you're used to assigned seating, it's just, I've seen some weird takes with that. It's like, oh, like, why do movie theaters have to have assigned seating? And it's just like, dude, that is the best thing movie theaters could have done. It's assigned seating, bro, because now we don't have to get to the movie like hella early to see this, like, get a good seat, right? And so, yeah, I don't really want, that's a whole nother can of worms. I can go on that, like that spiel a whole nother day. But yeah, Revenge of the Sith was just fantastic, being able to see that in the theaters. I saw that on a Saturday, and I also watched it again. I watched it again last night in theaters too, because I definitely planned on seeing it again, but I saw on Instagram it was only available until the 30th, which is like when Thunderbolts and just dropping a bunch of banger after bangers. I was like, I gotta see this again. I gotta see it again. So I went last night. Again, pretty decent crowd in there. So yeah, just being able to witness one of my favorite movies ever on the big screen. I love this trend of bringing back old movies. It's really just, I love going to the movies. So, you know, even though I have this at home, have it on Blu-ray, have it on Disney Plus, just if I could see it in the theater, that is just the way I'm going to see it. And so yeah, just Revenge of the Sith, just a dream come true. Super glad I was able to see that in the movie theaters. Now, the only two Star Wars movies I really would like to see in theaters is Attack of the Clones and A New Hope. Attack of the Clones, not like super jazzed about. I think looking back now, like looking on it now, that's probably is my least favorite of the prequel trilogy movies. But I mean, if I can't see it in theaters, I probably like will make an effort to go out and see it. And The New Hope, I mean, that's the classic. That's the one that started everything. And so to be able to see that in theaters, I would really be excited to do that. And so, yeah, crazy month for movies. I think everything I mentioned, I saw in the theater. Yeah, I saw everything in the theater. I went to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I saw it 5 times. Or I went to the movies 5 times. This week is like the first time in like a while where I used up all 3 of my movies for A-list. And yeah, just like, dude, summer is gonna be popping when it comes to movies. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, that's all of like what happens when it comes to movies and stuff. Stepping into the world of TV, there's actually been quite a few shows I've been watching in April. This is probably like the most TV I've watched in a long time. Usually I'm watching probably like 1 to 2 shows a month, but I'm watching quite a few this month. And so the first one that I tackled was at the beginning of April. It was Tales of the Empire. That came out on May 4th of last year, and just the way life was at the time, just never got around to it. I remember seeing the trailer and being hyped for it, but life is just incredibly, like, I can't even begin to explain how hectic life was at that time. Like, I was super deep into that Star Wars video I made last year for the 4th, and then just life, bro. That was really it. So I just never, and also that same day, I think I finished Bad Batch, the series finale, because again, I was like super behind on that. And so that's what I spent the morning on May 4th doing. And so Tales of the Empire just really slipped my mind, and I just never got around to it. And then just randomly during that first week of April, I'm just kind of like scrolling, looking for something to watch. And so right now, Disney Plus is probably my the main streaming service I use the most right now, just because all the stuff I'm really into is on Disney Plus. So like all the Star Wars stuff, all the Marvel stuff, just like even Disney Channel stuff. Like I'm still watching my shows during lunch. I picked up Sweet Life on Deck. I picked that back up and just barreling through that. Again, just one a day, 5 days a week. So I'm pretty much just like almost done with the season I'm on right now. And yeah, like I'm pretty much, Disney Plus is the one, like the streaming service I use pretty much every day. And so Tales of the Empire, I was kind of like one night scrolling for something to watch because I wasn't really in the mood to play any games. I wasn't in the mood to get on YouTube or anything. So I'm like, let's just find something to watch, something short. And that's when Tales of the Empire came back on my radar. And so I spent 2 nights doing that. It's split. So if y'all aren't familiar with the Tales of, like, there's Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, and now coming on the 4th, which is in like a few days, Tales of the Underworld, which I'm beyond excited about. I'm ready for that. But getting into Tales of the Empire and like just the Tale shows in general, shorts, they're probably like 15 minutes at the most. 6 episodes focusing on 2 characters. So Tales of the Jedi focused on Ahsoka and Count Dooku. Tales of the Empire focused on Barriss Offee and Morrigan, who is in The Mandalorian and the Ahsoka show. And I will say, so the thing with the Tales, just like series, I guess, is I always find one story more interesting than the other, just because in my mind, there's always just kind of like that closure, or not really closure, but yeah, like I guess getting some closure into their character arc. And so for Tales of the Jedi, I found the Count Dooku episodes more interesting than the Ahsoka episodes, because Count Dooku is a character we haven't really explored too much, at least in canon, right? Like we got the Clone Wars show, we got him in Attack of the Clones in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. But in terms of like the in-between stuff, so stuff between episode 1 and 2, stuff between episode 2 and 3, well, not really 2 and 3, but 1 and 2, I guess, we don't really see too much of that, right? Unless there's probably some canon books out there, but I'm like still really getting into like reading the Star Wars books and stuff. And so I always found the Count Dooku episodes more interesting in the Tales of the Jedi series. And going into this, I was definitely more interested in the Barriss side of things, because we haven't really seen much of her outside the Clone Wars, right? So I was very interested to see where our story would take us. And the way the trailer was for it, it kind of painted her as like being an Inquisitor and stuff, which I thought was like a really brilliant idea. I'm like, that's actually really smart. And so overall, I do think Tales of the Empire was slightly weaker than Tales of the Jedi. I still found I found Tales of the Empire pretty enjoyable, but overall it's just kind of like, I still think Tales of the Jedi has some stronger moments with Ahsoka and Count Dooku, right? Whereas like the Morgan stuff, I was somewhat interested in with Tales of the Empire. It was cool seeing some characters return there, just how she ended up getting to the point that she was in Mandalorian season 2. At the beginning of her character arc was like fantastic, because we get to see like how the Night Sisters died, well, briefly, not like a full, like a Clone Wars style episode, because we did get that in the Clone Wars, but we get to see more of that in the very first episode. And just seeing Grievous just like ripping people up, that's always something I'm excited to see. And so yeah, overall, Tales of the Empire was a really good watch. Again, I spent like a couple days doing that. Watched like the first 3 episodes one night, and then the second 3 episodes another night, probably the next night actually. And just, again, it was almost a short watch. You can definitely knock it out in probably like an hour, something like that, maybe an hour and a half, give or take. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to Tales of the Underworld, because that's focusing on Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress. There's a lot of weird things with Asajj Ventress. If you're not familiar, because I actually read, there's a book about her and, dang, what's bro's name? I forgot his name. I'm like put it up here somewhere. It's like Voss. I don't know his first name. There's a book that I think was supposed to be like or it was supposed to be episodes of the Clone Wars. And I read the book last year. I had it sit on my shelf for a while. I just never got around to it. And so I finally read it last year. I was actually like really engrossed in this book. I remember reading it. So this, like at this time last year, I was really getting into, well, not like this time, but like I want to say from maybe the solid January-ish to beginning of April. I was trying to make an effort to read every night before I went to bed, just so I'm not like on my phone and like doom scrolling and stuff like that. And one of the books I picked up was that book about Asajj Ventress and Voss. And how I did it at first, I read like a chapter each night. I was just doing that, and then at some point we went on a road trip, and we went to North Carolina, which is like an 8-hour drive. And so that's a long drive. I'm like, let's bring the book. Let's see what happens. Let's see how far we get. I pretty much read majority of that book while we're on the road. So we had like an 8-hour trip there, read a good chunk on the way there. And then one day we had like a pretty long, not a long drive, probably like an hour-ish or something like that, like to and from where we had to go. So, I mean, that was still like another prime time to read my book. And then I pretty much barreled through that on the way back home, finished it that night. And like, that was, this is so funny. That's like the first time I ever, well, I shouldn't say ever, but that's the first book that I finished since high school, since I graduated high school. So it's been like 5 years. Just, I'll be honest, it's kind of embarrassing because, like, again, just reading, this is so weird. I know how to, like, I can read. I have the ability to read, and there are some books that I definitely do want to read, but it's just, it's one of those things that I just don't make the time for. I really would like to get back into it, like just reading before bed or something like that. Like this time last year, I was reading that. I started The Hunger Games. There's probably a couple other things I started too, but yeah, that book was really something I was into. But anyway, the whole point of this was, like, in that book, for those who aren't familiar, and if you care, like, this is gonna get a little spoilery, but so if you just want to skip ahead, you can. But in the book, Asajj dies. She dies in like the last couple chapters or so, right? And so the reason I actually read it was because I saw they were bringing her back for the Bad Batch show. And I'm like, that's weird, she died in the books. And so there's like this weird thing going on with the books and like whether or not they're canon or whatever. And so I was very intrigued to see what happened with her in Bad Batch. They don't really explore that too much though. So I'm hoping Tales of the Underworld does give a little more explanation about how she's still alive. Maybe they just kind of, like, the book I read is no longer canon. I don't really know. But yeah, really looking forward to Tales of the Underworld. Probably most likely going to try and binge that whole show the day it comes out, because two, like, Asajj Ventress and Cat Bane, probably like the two most interesting and fleshed out characters that we got from the Clone Wars. So I'm definitely excited to explore more about them. And so that's that. The next show that I watched was Devil May Cry. I started that probably a few days after it dropped. I think it released on April 3rd, if I'm correct. 8 episodes, each an hour and a half. Same with, well, not really Tales of the Jedi, but just TV in general. I'm like taking it 1 episode a night. And so it took me about 2 weeks to do it because, again, it kind of came out, but when I started watching it, it kind of was like at the halfway point. That's when my uncle had come to visit us. And so it was kind of, we were just like doing things late at night, and I just never really got around to finishing it until like just later that week. But overall, I enjoyed the show. This is coming from someone who has played each of the Devil May Cry games. I say 2 is like the only one I never really finished, but I'm kind of like familiar with what happened in 2. But yeah, I played each of the Devil May Cry games, but I only played them once. I played them once during my high school year of or just my senior year of high school. And so I'm not like super hardcore about the lore and stuff. I did, like, when I was like looking up stuff about it, I know there's an anime that came out in 2007 that I think bridges the gap between 3 and 4, or no, not 3 and 4, because Devil May Cry, so for those who don't know, the timeline can kind of get a little weird with those early Devil May Cry games. So pretty much it's like Devil May Cry 3 is the first one canonically, or whatever, chronologically, that's the word I'm looking for. Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 1, and then Devil May Cry 2. So I think the anime bridges the gap between Devil May Cry 2 and Devil May Cry 4. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I saw like a lot of people saying how that was a better anime than this one. And so again, just coming as someone who's very casual to the Devil May Cry fandom or something like that, I found the show enjoyable. There are definitely some moments where, like, very different from what I remember from the game. Like there's a lot of, so this is seems like a weird take, I guess, but there's a lot of swearing in the show, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know, I do like a good swear word or whatever, but like they just drop it very casually a lot, and I'm like, I don't remember it being this hardcore in the games. The only one that I kind of remember maybe being like that was the reboot DMC Devil May Cry, but the main line entries, I'm like, yeah, this is very, I don't remember them cussing so much. It's just a weird thing to point out, but yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting how they went about that. I will say, like, I don't think the show is edgy or trying to be like anything like that. I do think it is still in like the spirit of Devil May Cry, especially those early Devil May Cry games. But I know just some fans were like not happy with it. I think just because the way some of the characters are written, like Lady is definitely a major departure from how I remember her from the games. I didn't find it to be a bad thing though. Personally, I did think it was very interesting seeing how her character played out in the show. For reference, the show is not canon to the games at all. I think they made that clear. I saw it at some point, but yeah, this is like its own thing, which I think makes sense. You know, it's kind of weird trying to place this somewhere in the timeline, I guess, because this does feature like a lot of different elements from all the Devil May Cry games, to be honest, especially when it comes to like the demons themselves. Like they're pulling demons from Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 4, I'm pretty sure even like the earlier games as well. Those are just the two that kind of stuck out to me, were the ones from those games. And the story is, I think the story was enjoyable to me. I know a lot of people were like, oh, the main villain's plan is just so dumb and whatever. I'm just kind of like, I'm vibing with what's going on. And so I mean, I enjoyed the show for what it was. I know a lot of Devil May Cry, like hardcore Devil May Cry fans, might not be the biggest fan of it, but again, from someone who's casual like to the series, I thought it was good. I'm pretty sure at some point I would like to play, like get really into the Devil May Cry games and platinum them, and then maybe even make like a retrospective series about, because I've played them before. I do have some fondness for these games, and so I think it would be interesting to kind of explore that side of the series a bit. And maybe if I watch it again, because I think they are dropping season 2, who knows when, then I'll give season 1 a rewatch, see if my thoughts and opinions about it change going forward. But overall, like right now, I thought it was a really solid show. I enjoyed my time with Devil May Cry. I really did. The music in that show also hits. There's one song in there, Afterlife, banger, man, banger. And Rolling, like that song they played for the title sequence, banger, bro. I had that in my head for like a solid week or two. Just overall, I really enjoyed the show. Stylish action sequences as well. Animation could be a little wonky at times. They do like the thing where some of the characters, like the demons and stuff, and like just a few action sequences, they have like 3D elements in there, which I don't mind, because I think it does, you know, make the animation in some cases a little easier, but it can look a little jarring at times, just depending on what, like you can tell when something is different. I don't want to say off necessarily, but you can tell when something is different compared to what's all there. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I really enjoyed Devil May Cry. I really did. The other shows I've been watching have kind of just been ongoing series. The Amazing Race is one that's something my family watches. We've been watching Amazing Race for years now. And so yeah, we're just kind of watching them. We've been catching up this past month, because yeah, there's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 episodes right now. And I'm pretty sure at the time I'm recording this, some new episodes dropping tonight, probably. And so, yeah, Amazing Race has just always kind of been that family thing that I look forward to watching pretty much I wouldn't say every week, but, you know, every now and then. Like, we usually, depending on, like, what we got going on in life, sometimes we'll binge the whole season in, like, a few days or something like that. But, yeah, right now, we're kind of caught up, so we're taking it weekly. The interesting thing about it now is, like, since COVID, they've been releasing longer episodes. So I think now if you watch them on TV, they're like an hour and a half. And so if you watch them like streaming, which is usually how we do it, it's an hour, which I do think is really nice for flushing out some challenges, because yeah, those legs in the Amazing Race can get pretty lengthy at times. And so yeah, I really like the change of the format, how it's an hour now. Just gives us more, you can see things more in depth, I guess, instead of, you know, editing to kind of rush it and make it and like squeeze it into that hour format or whatever. And so, yeah, Amazing Race is just something we've always been watching. So we're just barreling through this current season at the moment. Another show that's ongoing that I'm watching is The Last of Us Part 2. I have been looking forward to this show for a while now, ever since they dropped the first season of Last of Us. I just knew that season 2, part 2 was inevitable, but the looming question was always, how were they going to do it? And it's very interesting right now. So I always had this, like, I was always, the one thing, and we're going to get into some spoilers about Last of Us Part 2, primarily with the game, and I guess the show in some ways, but not really like too in depth. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers for the show, then you can kind of skip ahead. But in terms of the game, if you're not familiar, like, again, we're gonna get into a little spoiler, but if you're not familiar with the game, the way it is like it's split, right? And so, going to the game, this woman that you don't really know, you play as a little bit in the game, but you don't know, kills Joel. And so Ellie's on this revenge path to kill Abby, as we later know, and her friends. And so the game, like the first half of the game, you're playing as Ellie throughout 3 days in Seattle, like killing her friends, and then you eventually get to Abby. And then once you get to Abby, it switches, and so you play as Abby for those 3 days, and then just bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, right? And from the very first moment of the show, I was like, oh yeah, they're changing things. Because the fact that we see Abby at the first scene, outside like the intro and whatever, the first scene is with Abby and her friends right after Joel killed the doctor. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be very different. And I can just, the way they're playing it out, like the first episode was just, they're telling the story in chronological order, which I'll be honest, for that first episode, I didn't mind, because I'm watching the show with my dad, who's never played the games, right? He's played a little bit of part 1. He knows something, like just very, very few things of part 2. But yeah, I'm like telling him some of the stuff that we see now, we don't see until much later in the game. So like that whole dance scene that we get like for New Year's Eve, we didn't see that cutscene through until like pretty much the last like few hours of the game. And so just kind of telling them, I did this with part 1 too. I don't really try to be annoying about it, but I did tell them just like all the major differences that we see in the show versus what we see in the game, how like this played out in the game versus how they're doing it in the show. And so I think for the most part, the show is good, right? I won't say it's like, as right now, I won't say it's like on that level of part 2, because right now I'll go ahead and say Last of Us Part 2 is probably my favorite video game of all time. I know it's going to rub some fans the wrong way, or not even fans, but just people in general the wrong way, because if you all are gamers and like following PlayStation, I'm pretty sure you all know the hellfire that was 2020 when The Last of Us dropped, and just all these mixed feelings about the game, just the extreme hatred that the game got. It was a lot. But for me, I just, no other medium really touched me and made me think the way Last of Us Part 2 did when I played it the first time. And so in a way, I do kind of miss that feeling that they're doing with the show compared to the game. I did like that mystery of like not knowing who Abby is, not knowing why she killed Joel, right? We don't learn that until much later in the game. But also my thing is, it kind of makes sense that they're kind of exploring this stuff right now, like Abby's path, like her path to revenge, her motives for killing Joel. I think it makes sense right now to do it, because compared to the game, we don't know why Abby killed Joel to begin with when we're playing the game, but we have the whole game in front of us, right? Over the next like 10 hours or so, as we're playing Ellie, we're developing these feelings and all these emotions. But as soon as we switch over to Abby, everything kind of switches, it flips, and we start to piece together why Abby did what she did. But for the show, they're gonna split the season, I'm pretty sure, so we won't really, if it plays out the way at least I think it would in my head, we wouldn't know Abby's motive for why she killed Joel for like a year, 2 maybe. And I think in ways they're trying to avoid all the hatred that fans were spewing at the actors for the game, right? I think they're just trying to protect, because it's a very it's a very dark story. It's a very divisive story. And so I think they're just trying to ensure that the actors are protected, because I've seen a lot of criticisms thrown towards the show, but I haven't really seen a lot of criticisms thrown towards the actors. So I haven't really seen anything said about Caitlin Dever, who plays Abby, or something like that, which I think is refreshing, right? I've definitely seen some boneheaded takes on the show for sure, but overall I still think it is a solid show. I don't really know if it's as strong as the game, at least right now, because we're still in those early chapters. And just some of the changes, I think particularly with episode 3, have been rubbing some fans the wrong way, which I can kind of understand. I will say there are just some things I think the game does a lot better, but I'm saying that as someone who has played the game first, who's seen the story play out multiple times, right? And so I do, again, my dad right now, I think he's still going through the same motions that I had when I played the game. It's like when they, spoilers again, eventually kill Joel, it's like he was mad, he was pissed, he told me he thought about not watching the show anymore because they just killed him like that. And so in ways like that, I do think the show is doing an effective job setting that stuff up. But yeah, we're still pretty early in the season. It's a shorter season. I think there's only 7 episodes, so we still got 4 more. I'll definitely be talking about it more in the next check-in, because I'm enjoying the show so far. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the episodes play out each week. And yeah, that's Last of Us Part 2, man. Definitely gonna be talking about it a lot more as the season goes on. And so the last show I want to talk about is Andor. Surprisingly, I have not started season 2 yet. I wanted to rewatch season 1 because when it first came out in, I think it was 2022, when I watched it, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Not for weird, dumb reasons or anything like that, but it just wasn't speaking to me personally. I watched the entire season, but it just wasn't really speaking to me. I just felt like at the time it was pretty slow in some instances. And so I wanted to watch it again because I feel like now that we heard people talk about it and just the way season 2 looks like it's going to play out, I just feel like I didn't really have as much appreciation for the show like I did when I watched it the first time. So I want to just watch it again and maybe hopefully appreciate it a little more. Maybe, I don't really know. Right now, again, I'm just taking it mostly one episode a night. It just kind of depends. Those episodes are longer than I remember them being, and so sometimes they'll just get really late and I'm like, I don't got time, I'll watch it another night. And so right now I'm probably halfway through season 1, and yeah, I just really need to pick that up so I can start season 2, because I've been hearing a lot of interesting things about season 2 as well. So it's definitely gonna be interesting once I finally get that started. And yeah, that's really it when it comes to all that. In terms of what I've been doing though, outside of just games and movies and TV, I ran a 5K. I did that in the middle of the month. Something me and my sister did. She had sent us something a few months ago saying some 5K where she's at, and it's we should do it and whatever, it's for the dogs and stuff. And so I was like, I'll do it, because I took a jogging class my junior year of college and I actually really enjoyed it. Before then I just wasn't really a big runner and stuff like that, and I just never in the beginning I'm I don't really know how I'm gonna do in this class, because I think one of the first assignments was walk 5 minutes, jog, I think it was either 5 or 10 minutes, and then walk another 5. I could barely do that at first, but as the semester went on, I found myself being able to keep up my stamina much longer and being able to just jog the whole time. And so one of the final assignments I had to do was run 5 or walk 5 minutes, jog for I think 45 minutes, and then walk for another 5. And unknowingly I did a whole 5K for that final assignment. I'm like, hell yeah, man, that's good. And so for the past the beginning of April, again, just doing more training, just doing more practicing. I have this trail near me, so that's really where I've been doing it, and just kind of increasing my time every time I did it. And eventually I did get to where I was able to run the 5K before we actually did it. The last day of training I did before I was able to do it. And it's always funny, I don't know what got into me. I had this in the video game terms, like this second wind hit me. Like I was about to stop, but I was like, I can keep going. I can keep going. I can get to 3 miles today if I wanted to. And that's what I did. And I felt super accomplished. We did it. It was on a Sunday. It just, again, I felt very accomplished when I did it. I think my time was like 51 minutes. And I'm like, hey man, like this is my first time really doing this. So I'm like, that's good enough for me. And so yeah, dude, that was one big thing I did. Felt really accomplished about that. It was a really good day too. Really nice day, nice weather. So that made the run even better. But yeah, overall, that was just a really good day. Again, my uncle came to visit us for about a week. So we were just kind of doing stuff with him. Nothing really of note, just, you know, chilling, vibing, stuff like that. Work has been incredibly busy. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning, but I do IT for school. And so testing was this month, and we had to make sure all the students' devices were fixed, because let me tell you, these kids love to break these computers, man. Stuff they're not paying for, they just love to break them. The main thing I always see is just broken screens. That's always it. Just their screens are cracked, stuff like that, which is really annoying sometimes. But yeah, testing, we knocked that out. We got all those computers fixed. I think the person I'm working with, she told me I had fixed about like 130 computers or something like that. And this is a school of like, I want to say 1,000, something like that. So yeah, so that was a pretty decent chunk. But luckily the week of testing, so like testing itself, because I do have to be in like the area that they're in, because a lot of students tend to leave their chargers at home, or they just need chargers for their computers. Very few need an actual computer themselves. And so testing week is usually pretty slow for me. Like I'm usually there just in like beginning of the day. And so I really found it to be a wonderful time to just catch up on some projects that I have in the works. Hopefully I can get out pretty soon. But yeah, just the school year is winding down, so we're starting to wrap things up soon. But got some weird stuff happening at my job as well, so I've just kind of been looking for new jobs as well, seeing what I can find there. I've had a couple interviews this month. It didn't really turn out, like they didn't pan out well. I didn't get the job, unfortunately, but I'm gonna keep trying, gonna see what's out there. Hopefully I can land something sooner rather than later, something that pays a bit more moolah, you know what I'm feeling. But yeah, that's been April. Again, just very busy month with life and just a bunch of random stuff. And so yeah, hopefully hopefully I can crank out a few more platinums, you know. Just yeah, things are gonna slow down a lot during this last month of school, so might utilize some remote play, maybe. We'll see. I just got a lot of projects I need to work on, so probably gonna be a good mixture of both. But yeah, that's April. May, not a lot looking forward to in May when it comes to like gaming and stuff. The only thing that's really on my mind is Doom: The Dark Ages. That's like the only big thing I can really think of. There's a bunch of stuff coming out in May. I watched like a GameRix video for like all the stuff coming out. There's a few things that caught my eye, but right now Doom: The Dark Ages is like the only thing that's, you know, really speaking to me. And so that's really that with the game front. In terms of movies, Thunderbolts comes out in a couple days, so I'm looking forward to that. Mission Impossible comes out at the end of the month. Really looking forward to that. I know that's going to be a killer thing to watch in IMAX, so I'm definitely ready to witness that. And I mean, yeah, May, just, you know, Star Wars. Definitely looking forward to celebrating some Star Wars. You know, May the 4th is always a fun day for me, so I'm looking forward to that. Chelsea Underworld, gonna play a few Star Wars games, and yeah, May's gonna be a dope month. But that has been April. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, thank you. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. Hopefully we're there by the time I'm posting this. So I just cannot thank you all enough. I really can't. And just, yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you.